Levy once again on Payments.com, and I am joined today by Jameson Jaworski, who is General Manager, Senior Vice President of Retail and Green Dot Networks at Green Dot, and also by Nicole Haskins, who is Vice President of Electronic Billing and Payment Solutions and Innovations at Paymentus. Welcome.
Thanks, Hal.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being with us. Your long titles give a nod to the fact that we have some pretty big depth and breadth of insight and knowledge, and I would suspect insight into the convergence of cash and digital and all sorts of things. So with that said, obviously we're building on the news of your expanded and I think what I would call timely joint effort to do one of two things, really just to shine a spotlight on cash bill payment and to discuss with us a little bit of why it's necessary right now. So let's start with a high-level question. The conventional wisdom, right, is that the digital shift has got us all. We're all out there using cards. We're all paying online. We're all doing our daily financial lives in a fairly technically and technologically advanced manner, and we are maybe leaving cash a bit behind. That is not necessarily the case. So let's discuss why. Tell me why cash bill payments are proving to be sticky, specifically and especially in this current macro environment.
Well, I'm going to let Jameson talk a lot about, that question because, they're the experts that we're partnering with. But I'm going to challenge you a little bit, Hal, on the word all. So we're all using digital. We're all trying to get to digital transformation. And that's really why Paymentus partnered with Green Dot to expand our instant payment network. Is that all word is a little misleading. So Jameson?
Thank you very much, Nicole. When you look at how much digital has advanced, it's true. And there is, a movement to that. But the fact of the matter is 20% of all transactions still are cash. And that is throughout all transactions. When you look at underbanked folks, that raises to 60% of their transactions are cash. And so the ability for us with our 90,000 retail locations to provide access is extremely important to serve those folks and to make sure that it's convenient for them to make a payment, to make sure that they have that confirmation that their lights aren't going to be shut off or any other adverse effects.
You have an important concept in that answer, and that is convenience. I want to talk a little bit about that. Cash is many things. It is a lifeline. It is immediate in its own way. It is universally accepted in many settings. And as you mentioned just now, there's a population that depends on it. But the word convenience raises a question. What is inconvenient about doing all this? And then let's discuss a little bit about how you guys are working together to alleviate some of the pain points that are inherent in using cash to do these essential tasks.
Yeah, I might start with talking about a life journey for somebody who's making payments and may be reliant on cash, and that is that they have to perhaps take bus transportation or find a easy way to get to a central location where there may be a check casher, there may be the ability to pay their utility bill, get groceries and other essentials for that. With extension of, and thinking about bank branches closing at the rate that they are, when you have 90,000 retail locations that are on the corner within 96% of the population is within 3 miles of those locations, you're really talking about extending that convenience to reduce financial deserts, in small towns and other places where now you don't have to make a special trip to your property manager, to your utility location in order to make a payment. You can now do it in the course of your daily life, and it's convenient. you get through the Paymentus transaction, you get a confirmation, and immediately, and that bill is going to be paid. You have confidence in that, and then you can go on and not worry about it for the rest of the week, the month. Nicole, what do you have to add?
No, I think that, this financial technology firms, ultimately, we're all driven to move forward with technology.
Mm-hmm.
And who we serve, a good portion of our business are businesses that really don't choose who their customers are. So as an example, you either move in or move out of a utility service area. You either live in the county that you pay the taxes in or you don't. You may not choose who your insurance providers are that you need to make co-pays to, or your rent. And so ultimately, because of that, we have to think about consistently that customer and every customer that is being served by that biller. And otherwise, they're going to leave customers behind as they continue on their innovative journey using technology. But, with Green Dot, and why we're so proud of the relationship, is we get to do a little bit of both. We get to use a really great innovative technology, but service a demographic that often is kind of not always thought about at the forefront. And certainly, of course, COVID taught us all that from stories of utilities having dollar bills slipped under their door by the cash population, to those just trying to figure out, how am I going to get you the funds I need if you don't take digital wallets, have solutions like Green Dots, don't have kiosks or point of sale options for cash preferred, and you just keep going down this path of everyone can be served through web and phone. So I think it's a thoughtfulness that fintechs and bill pay providers have to have, so that they're making sure that they're bringing their entire customer base along with them on this journey.
That's a great point, because you're talking about the marriage of, an essential, urgent, sticky behavior, which is cash payment, and you're marrying it with technology in its own way. I think that's an important point. I want to touch on that a little bit, because I'd like to get some hypotheticals from you both of how that gets married in this particular relationship, how it provides, to your point earlier, confidence that the bill is going to get paid, essential services will continue, daily life will continue with a minimum of friction. But at the same time, you have this, I'm going to use the term on-ramp, off-ramp, navigating between, the interaction of going and getting your bills paid and technology. So I think it might be instructive if you can give us a hypothetical about how all this works together in a seamless way. Can you give me one?
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone gets generally a utility bill. So we'll talk about utilities. It's a little bit easier. Ultimately, when you get your utility bill printed on the bill, or if you get bill delivery through email, or even a text to let you know your bill is ready, you have a reaction, right? You need to do something. You might have auto pay set up, but for the underbanked, you don't. Or for those that it's not just underbanked either, it's also an entire demographic that's cash preferred now. So you have both that you're dealing with. And so there's not really been a decline. It's actually seen a growth, because now you added a cash preferred to the underbanked. So what's occurring then is they have notification that there's a bill in some form. Certainly as part of that notification, it's sharing all the ways that you can pay and helping that end user see their options, their choices. Do you want to pay by phone? Do you want to pay certainly over the web? Do you want to send in a check? Oh, please don't, but it's there as an option. Or do you want to go to another location to make a payment? Or of course, the biller can drive traffic to their own locations, but with the struggles of employment and staffing and cost, many times that's not something that they want to, advocate for as well. So generally, a consumer, a majority of the consumers will go to the web, right? And they'll go to that experience to then choose to check out by putting a savings account, a checking account number, using a digital wallet like Apple Pay or Venmo or PayPal. And that's it. So what we wanted to do was to expand that experience to say, If that bill delivery happens to that consumer, they then naturally go to the web, which can be on their smartphone device. Obviously, their responsive web, certainly for all device types too. They then have an option for cash. So alongside all the other options, it's almost a buffet of menus that, given whatever circumstances they're in, we can help take your payment. So if that month you happen to have a prepaid Visa card, you might use the prepaid Visa card. If you happen to have cash in your PayPal account, because a lot of underbanked or cash preferred also know how to use digital wallets and choose to, because they're not banking anywhere. So we're not keeping cash in a lot of places safely. So they can do that. Or the one that we're talking about today, which we know has a huge need, as Jameson was mentioning, is I'm actually going to be out and about doing my other things and errands and getting the necessities to support my family and myself. I'm going to make a payment with cash bill pay. And so it's just another toggle that then alerts them of the notifications nearby of where they can take that payment, provides them confirmation in a scan so that they can actually make that payment. And no matter then whether they paid with cash bill pay or web transaction, for the biller, it's posting, it's accounted for, it's of course reported on, and the end user has the same experience, so that they now know their choices, the consistency, the biller has consistency, and you're able to, again, offer a consistent, certainly, I call it the buffet options or omni-channel solutions for that end user.
Hal, I'd like to add to Nicole's comment. And
Sure.
when you think about Green Dot, we're a bank. And in those 90,000 retail locations, not only do we have the Green Dot network, but we also distribute DDAs, financial products. And in that partnership, we are looking at meshing the physical and the digital in order to meet the customer where they want to be met. And that is providing them more services. And so as Nicole had talked about, the ability to widen that net and provide services to a greater amount of folks. Now, if you think about if your grocery app, your convenience store app was not only collecting loyalty points, but had an embedded account and the ability to remind somebody, hey, is your bill due? And making it convenient through a barcode technology that we've done together. That is the next step, and the ability to start driving convenience with more digital approaches and really combining both of our capabilities on their side for the biller and the mechanism to do it. And for us, it's that, the reach and going more digital.
To that point, actually, there's a flip side to all of this. Beyond the convenience, or complementing the convenience that we get for the end user, and that would be for the billers, for the providers themselves, right? To have this bit of visibility and assurance that they are, what's outstanding and what needs to be paid does get paid, and obviously that's a positive ripple effect with their own financial management. So can we discuss that a little bit as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, here at Paymentus, we really are focused on that end customer and their experience, but we also always focus on the back office experience too for that biller. So it was very critical for us that we chose a partner that could honor our real-time postings, could honor our reportings and analytics that we can provide those billers. So again, that end user that is cash preferred or underbanked isn't left behind because they don't see that the payment was made for 3 to 5 days, or the biller sees it as a negative because they don't get the cash over to them as fast as the other payment methods. So instead of sort of that legacy duct taping solutions together, which then creates lots of different reconciliation timeframes, posting time, and really complexity, that when that end consumer just wants to know if their lights are getting turned back on or that they didn't get a late payment, and the customer service reps have no visibility to that because it's not consistent reporting and posting and funding, we needed to solve that too. So that's something that, when we chose to work with Green Dot and we partnered and talked together, we said, we're solving both sides of the point here.
What about, and I'm going to go out a little bit in left field here. What about the positive impact to the retail locations that offer this as part of their portfolio of interaction with the consumer? Is there a benefit to them as well? Does it wind up even increasing? Let's say somebody comes going to pay some bills as part of their daily task, and then they say, oh, well, I also need a quart of milk, or I need to do this, or I do that. You start to see what I would call a widening sort of pond effect of positive interactions that then even start to benefit a wider ecosystem. Does that take place?
Oh, absolutely. When you think about these locations, they've got the footprint, they've got the lease, they've got the clerk that is being paid for. And so if you think about it as a pipe, they want to run as many transactions through that pipe as possible. And the ability to now push people into their locations, because this is not where somebody's just happening upon and saying, oh, I'm going to try this. Typically, they're generating the barcode right from the Biller's app that Paymentus is generating, and going into these locations based off of their zip code. And so now you're taking, somebody who may not have entered into that CVS, into that Kroger location, and putting them in that store. We've, working with our buyers, know that this category can generate up to 12% of unique footprint or foot traffic into those locations, which is huge when you're looking at the volume that they deal with.
And I'll just, Jameson, some of the feedback we get from our billers right after the pandemic was, certainly that they're reassessing their payment centers, right? They're reassessing some of the staffing and the cost to that. But one of the biggest concerns is that there's a very social aspect to some of their consumers coming in to pay them. It might be someone that this is their once or twice outing, right? And they prefer cash, or that they just want a little bit of that humanity and eye-to-eye contact. And there is, and that's okay, an entire group of customers that this is their preferred way to pay is in person. So you don't then lose that either when I'm checking out with my Tylenol and paying my bill at a pharmacy.
That's a great point.
It occurred to me, Jameson, you had mentioned the banking aspect of it. It's obviously Green Dot operating the bank, and it sparked a light bulb in my head. Does this provide any ways to start to map out a path and maybe even gently nudge people who have been cash reliant? Because if they do keep doing this, there's an idea of where they stand financially, but also, as you mentioned earlier, both of you, there's a little bit of a straddling of both cash payments and digital. Does this offer up any way to start to get people to consider how they can transition into at least some more basic banking services that they may not have been thinking about or have had access to before? Is there anything like that, or am I completely off base?
No, you're absolutely correct. And Green Dot over 20 years ago started with selling prepaid cards in retail locations, and that is a form. It's the ability for them to have an account. You have 158 million U.S. Citizens who live paycheck to paycheck, and some of those are banked. Some of them make over $100,000. But it's a matter of being able to provide services to a spectrum of folks. And when you start to consider the unbanked, the underbanked, the people who just like to use cash, the key is being able to provide that convenience. And when I spoke a little bit about working with our partners on the retail side to integrate our Green Dot Network partners, such as Paymentus, into that embedded account, into their apps, and into that environment, it's really about meeting the consumer where they choose, because they have life going on, and they need to make it easier, and they're trying to find ways in order it. There's also a misnomer that the folks that are using these type of services or the unbanked are not good with their budgets or good with their money. That's completely untrue. They are probably the best at managing their money and making sure that they're doing it in a way that is most economical. And confirmation, that is something that Nicole had talked about. They need to know it was paid. They need to know it was paid right now, and they can, move on with their daily life. And so you are correct in the fact that we're going to provide numerous ways for them to become banked in a non-traditional sense, not going to their local corner bank and speaking with somebody, but using the 90,000 locations that we have on all the corners in order to provide that type of service.
I think that's a great point, and almost an illustrative way to term it. It's like you're using your local mainstay as your corner bank without it being a bank, and just to triage daily life. What have I missed that we haven't addressed that either or both of you would like to bring up or expand upon that we have discussed?
I think that we've hit most of the things that I had written down to touch on today. In terms of the one thing that I might answer that you had asked before is, we handle all aspects of the transaction after the collection of cash by the clerk. And so even our retailer doesn't have to worry about that. Then we, through the transaction, the ID, the receipt that's printed that goes with the consumer, then the money, is handled between us and Paymentus and from them to the biller. And so there's confidence in that electronic trail. There's confidence in that the banking system that controls that. So it's both for the consumer and the retailer and the biller.
No, I think we hit all the points. I mean, the main goal for Paymentus is always to make sure we're never leaving a customer behind of one of the billers that we serve. And it's why we have French IVR in Louisiana, right? It's just, I can't understand it, but it's there because there is a demographic with a need, and it is our responsibility, both ethically and financially, to try to serve as many people as possible that need to pay their bills.
When we look at the people we partner with, you have a finite amount of time and IT prioritization. Paymentus was, a key partner for us in order to go after such a large group and specifically those that really need the service. And so that's why we thought this partnership was going to be so beneficial and impactful.
Thank you.
Very good. Yeah, I think I like the note ending. You've got to get it out there to have the maximum amount of, I'll call it, financial security out there, and in the way that it needs to be embraced, that people want to do it, and when they want to do it. And I think that's key. I want to thank you both for the time,
Thanks,
for the
Al.
conversation. I enjoyed it.